The wind blew like a spectre through the canyons, carrying whispers of sins unspoken. The sister had heard it all, the prayers, the cries, but fear gripped her like a vice, tighter than the ropes that bound the damned. She feared nothing of grit and blood, but the ache of solitude clawed at her heart. A body in the night with no touch, no gaze. That was the death she truly dreaded. Against the backdrop of a dying day, the monastery stood tall, its stone walls aging like the souls within. The flickering flame of candles fought against the encroaching darkness, but even light must confront the shadows. The prioress, a woman molded by grief and duty, watched as Sister Joanna knelt before the altar. "Joanna, you must understand," the prioress said, her voice sharp as the chill of the night air. "You walk with the lost. They are not our kind. They are seekers like us," Joanna replied, her voice steady. "Lost in the dark, holding stories we can't ignore." In her heart, she turned the words over, feeling their weight, knowing the truth they revealed. The prioress's eyes narrowed, a glint of fear reflecting the eternal battle within. Joanna's resolve was her only anchor. "You gamble with the lives of the innocent," the prioress warned, barely recalling the faith that sheltered her heart. "What if the real sickness comes from turning our backs?" Joanna said. "What if we choose to separate ourselves from our kin?" The desert sun simmered beneath the doubt binding them all, blistering the earth as it bled into twilight. As she ventured beyond the monastery walls, the desolation enveloped her like a shroud. The outcast camp lay hidden beneath the weight of shame. The shadows of the past loomed, distorted and intangible. Yet, here, amid the discarded and the desperate, life still flickered like dying embers. Sister Joanna approached, ignoring the whispers that accompanied her. Each face bore stories of judgment and rejection. She extended a hand, trembling yet firm. "I'm here," she said. "Let me share your weight, even if just for a moment." A young boy, eyes wide with longing, stepped forward and whispered, "Will you pray for us before the dawn comes and takes us too?" Nights like this conceived unbreakable bonds, a ghostly dance of hope lingering on the edges of despair. "I will pray," she promised, "and together we will find a way through this darkness." The words held promise, vivid against the harsh reality of their existence, and Joanna felt the stirrings of life awakening among the shunned. Back at the monastery, the tension escalated as Sister Maria's body grew frail. Beneath the weight of the world, she fought with feverish strength, the sickness relentless. The prioress summoned Joanna, frustration brewing like storm clouds on the horizon. "Stay away from the outcasts," the prioress urged. "Their sickness spreads, and we cannot afford to lose anyone else." "They are as human as we are," Joanna replied, determination etched in her every movement. "If we turn away, we lose ourselves, our hearts, our very faith." Yet the prioress knew well that fear does not only reside in darkness, but seeps into the heart of the divine, twisting love into protection, trapping faith in careful embrace. "You are a risk we cannot afford," she asserted, eyes flickering between unity and division. But Joanna, unyielding as the sandstone beneath the stars, responded, "I would give them life over safety, any day. This life is about more than the absence of disease. It is about love and community." The day passed, consumed by tension and prayer, a desperate dance between fear and hope. That evening, as night settled, Joanna found herself standing at the threshold once again, drawn toward the despair resting beyond the walls. The camp was silent, yet within the silence she could feel a heartbeat war-torn, yet steadfast. The fire crackled, welcoming her as she ventured deeper into the darkness. The outcasts gathered around, their faces oftentimes shadowed, yet illuminated by faint flickers of warmth. "If you banish her from the monastery, she will lead the lost," one of them offered, howling forth like a wild wind. "She is light in this darkness, not fear." Their quiet resolve echoed through her, threading its way into her heart. "There's strength in the shadows," she whispered, breath caught in the stillness. "Let us show the world that we can endure." The prioress, gazing from her watchtower, felt the weight of her choice thrum through her. Fear clawed at her gut, wrestling the choices she had made, the walls built in defense. She echoed Joanna's sentiments in the dim light of the morning sun, where new resolve began to take shape. As the days wore on, hope kindled in the most unlikely of places. The outcasts began to rebuild, brick by brick, life amidst the ruins. From the shadows emerged strength, an indomitable spirit kindling light into life. But peace is a fragile tapestry, threadbare against the wisdom of the world. Doubt clung tighter each passing day, tendrils wrapping around the hearts of the faithful. When night fell and shadows stretched long enough to cloak their fears, it was confusion that stood sentinel against the dawn. A tumult brewed within the monastery as Joanna crossed boundaries with fierce tenacity. As Sister Maria returned from her sickbed, breathing once again, there was little certainty to hold on to anymore. "Will you join me, Maria?" Joanna asked. "Together, we can embrace those lost in despair." "I will stand with you," Maria responded, voice steady with newfound strength. Fear was but a whisper in the storm, while conviction rang true like a bell. Joanna understood. They were weaving a fragile alliance, a connection born out of shadows, light shining through, stitching together broken pieces. The outcasts became their kin, forever woven into the fabric of their hearts as stories of compassion began to circle. Yet the cracks began to spread, like fissures through parched earth. The prioress looked upon the encroaching darkness, heart racing between duty and love. "If we turn them away," she warned, "we risk losing our very souls. But by rejecting them, we lose our freedom to love," Joanna implored. The struggle to contain hope while fighting despair shook the very foundations they stood upon. The storm clouds darkened the skies above as lightning danced through the distance, a herald to change. Then came the moment of truth. The outcasts appeared at the gates of the monastery, wood and food in hand, silence heavy in the air. "If you cast her out, you cast us all aside," came a resolute voice. "To let her in is to let us all in." Joanna's heart swelled like a rising tide, the dawn of understanding illuminating the darkened corners of their hearts. Could the world truly hold space for both light and shadow? The prioress, drawn beyond her simplicity of fear, let the hope awaken within. "Then let us choose love," she whispered, recognition resting finally upon her shoulders. As the sun kissed the horizon, a small shelter took form near the monastery, a sanctuary where outcasts found much-needed shelter. There, Joanna and Maria offered their healing hands, growing an unexpected camaraderie born in darkness. The monastery became a place of haunted whispers, hearts stitched together under the watchful gaze of the stars. The stories of the delivered danced like spirits in the night, weaving through the air, while every child, every outcast, counted themselves among the blessed. But even among the blooms of newfound hope, doubt lingered, like shadows cast by the setting sun. Because to choose love is to embrace risk, to wear vulnerability like a badge. The question echoed through the hallowed halls. Could they stand firm even as storms raged without? The monastery would endure, but could they? Behind every choice lies another, rippling outward like the breath of the world. Did they have the courage to continue? And as dawn broke through the darkness, a chorus of life filled the air, weaving stories of redemption across the horizon. This was their legacy, marked by both struggle and grace. The sun swallowed the night whole, and their laughter danced around them like fleeting ghosts of hope. In the distance, the road stretched out, dusty and winding, much like the path they had chosen. Days turned into years, and the light of the sanctuary kept shining while shadows lingered just at the edges of their hearts. Joanna knew the journey had only begun, with life unfurling like petals against the harshness of the world around them. She stood tall, breathing in the warmth that embraced her, the promise of what lay ahead, vibrant yet fragile. In the end, the weight of every choice rested upon her shoulders, both heavy and light. What would justice look like in a place cloaked in shadows? She mused, strong in her resolve, ready to step forward into each new dawn. As the sun illuminated a path untaken, the boundaries of belief shifted beneath her. Sister Joanna would navigate both light and darkness, a bridge between the fractured souls that awaited her. Each dawn would offer a chance, a new commitment to choosing love over fear. If this journey spoke to your heart, the dust of your soul echoes with this hope. Subscribe to Medieval Stories to continue walking this path with us, to discover the tales that live in the shadows and shine in the light. Together, let us journey on into the unknown as stories weave around us, crafting a world where every heart has its home. In the quietude of dawn, as the sun hovered just above the horizon, painting the world in hues of gold and crimson, Joanna stirred from her sleep. Each day brought with it the weight of expectation, the pulse of life in the community that had gathered around the monastery. The flickering flame of hope lit by her choices shimmered like distant stars. Her heart was a compass, guiding her back to the outcasts each night, their stories intertwining with her own, like roots binding a tree to the earth. They had become her family, and she theirs. Unity born from shared strife and whispered prayers under the vast night sky. Together, they turned shadows into refuge, darkness into solace. Sister Maria bustled about the small kitchen, the scent of warm bread mingling with the crisp morning air. "I hear we have visitors today," she said, her smile bright like the sun peeking through the monastic windows. "Pope's envoy will arrive at noon to assess the situation." "Situation," Joanna echoed, the word tasting bitter. It was a term that did little to capture the profound transformation that had taken root beneath the monastery's hallowed walls. "Let them see what we have made," she added, resolve coating her words. As if summoned by her proclamation, the courtyard began to fill with the sounds of life. Outcasts, no longer mere phantoms of the past, moved about with purpose, constructing, creating, laughter spilling forth like water from a spring. Joanna watched them, her heart swelling like sails catching a favorable wind. But the specter of the past loomed close, whispering tales of judgment and scorn. Would those who arrived today see what she had witnessed? Would they truly understand? The community, fragile yet resilient, braced itself for the winds of scrutiny that could bring either blessing or ruin. At the appointed hour, the sound of hooves echoed in the distance, a reminder of the world beyond their sanctuary. Joanna stood at the gate, her heart racing. A procession of riders emerged, cloaked figures rising from the dust like spirits brought forth from the earth. The lead envoy, clothed in robes of rich fabric that contrasted sharply with the sign-stained rags worn by the outcasts, dismounted slowly, scanning the scene. His expression was unreadable, a mask of authority weighed with the scrutiny of his position. "What fate do you dispense upon this gathering?" he questioned, his voice deep and booming, cutting through the thrumming of her heartbeat. The crowd stilled, each breath held in anticipation, the air thick with tension. For too long, these souls have faced isolation and judgment. Joanna stepped forward, feeling a surge of courage ripple through her. They are worthy. We are worthy. Together, we are learning to live again. The envoy's gaze pierced through her, searching for strength and weakness alike. And what of those who would accuse you of defying divine law, of harboring the unclean? Joanna sensed the unyielding weight of that question. It hung like a noose in the air, taut and unyielding. "We are not unclean," she said, her voice steady, cutting through the murky shadows. "The body is no more than a vessel." One of the outcasts spoke up, stepping beside her, his voice weathered yet resolute. "What matters is the soul, the light within that craves acceptance." A murmur rippled through the gathered crowd, like rumor storming through the dry desert landscape, a rising tide against their harsh, weathered hearts. But would it be enough? Joanna could feel the pressure building, a tension wound tight around them like a fragile thread threatening to snap. The envoy regarded the man, his expression shifting ever so slightly. "A worthy argument," he finally conceded. "Yet, trust is an elusive shadow in a world so quick to turn." Days faded into a muted cacophony of uncertainty, the impact of the envoy's visit reverberating in the hearts of those gathered. Fear coiled tighter as whispers of judgment sent shivers through the community. "What if he condemns us to isolation?" Maria pondered, worry etched on her brow, her spirit dampened. She had witnessed the changes alongside Joanna, but felt the shadows creeping back as reality set in. "Then we will stand together," Joanna replied fiercely, clutching Maria's hands tightly. "United in our choice to embrace love over fear, we will endure whatever may come." As dusk carved deep shadows across the landscape, the envoy's presence felt like an impending storm cloud. The outcasts remained on edge, their sense of belonging trembling beneath the weight of unspoken fear. Yet, there was hope held in the hearts of those who dared to stand tall, to hold on to the glimmers that had pulled them from despair. Joanna led them in prayer that evening, their voices rising into the night like a chorus of lanterns, igniting secrets long buried. "Let us remember," she spoke, "that even in the shadows, the light persists. We are deserving of this solace we have crafted. We have built a home, rooted in the soil of justice and compassion. Together, nights bled into days as words of the envoy's reflection swept through the vicinity. Some feared backlash, while others maintained that Joanna had birthed something sacred. The tides of change ebbed and flowed, drawing back with uncertainty, yet there remained an undercurrent of profound hope. "Will they accept us?" one of the outcasts voiced, dread in his tone. "Will they welcome our existence?" "We've faced worse than rejection," Joanna asserted, standing firm in the misty dawn. "We've known isolation, but we've known triumph. We hold the choice of who we will be." despite what others may say. Surrounded by those she loved, strengthened by their shared resolve, the dawning day welcomed them with arms wide open. Joanna would not falter, nor would they. The envoy's final decision would come soon, the air charged in anticipation of a verdict that could shift the tides. Would the light they had fought so hard for be embraced, or snuffed out by the darkness of judgment? Together, they sat aside the uncertainties they faced, sharing stories and laughter, threading tales of resilience through the threads of fear. They pressed closer in those moments, hearts echoing into the night, lost in the comfort of kinship. As the stars twinkled overhead, Joanna felt a surge of gratitude, a realization washing over her like rain upon parched earth. They were vessels of change, filaments of love twisting into something beautiful. Tomorrow would arrive, carrying with it a weight of reckoning. But tonight, they were united in purpose, in love that transcended flesh. They would rise, no matter the outcome, knowing they were a testament to life's indomitable spirit. In the final moments before sleep claimed her, Joanna whispered a prayer into the cool night air, knowing the dawn would beckon with both promises and uncertainties. Yet, deep within her soul, she held a quiet faith, the kind that pushed against the world and shone through the cracks. If this journey resonated with you, subscribe to Medieval Stories, where tales of hope and love wade through shadows to find the light. Join us on this timeless path to discover what stories still await hidden along the journey of the soul. The dawn broke with a clamor of uncertainty. Rays of light fractured over the horizon, yet the air bristled with a tension that couldn't be washed away. As Joanna stood outside the monastery, bearing witness to the world awakening, she sensed that today might very well reshape their destiny. Gathering the outcasts, she stirred their spirits under the warm glow of the sunrise. Today, the sun rises for all of us, not just the righteous. We have made our place here, and we shall claim it, she declared, looking deeply into their eyes. Grit and spirit reflected back at her. Whatever they choose, a young woman among them said, her voice steady, we will remain together. United, we are strong. And so, they prepared for the envoy's return, their souls interwoven like threads in a tapestry, each version of life reinforcing another. The sanctuary had transformed into a lively collective, faces shining with vibrant hope born from joint tumult. When the envoy finally appeared, it was under the gaze of a gathering storm. Clouds crackled on the horizon, as if mirroring the tempests building within their hearts. He carried with him the weight of tradition, the pulse of the old world drumming in his veins. As he stepped inside, every soul held breath, the weight of expectation grinding against the very walls. I have come to witness firsthand what this community has created, he began, eyes sweeping across their faces, hunters and gatherers of hope, warriors forged from the ashes of ruin. I see. A sanctuary, he continued, his voice even yet layered with caution, but also an echo of fear. Will this unity endure when tested by the wavering faith of others? Joanna's heart surged with resilience as her voice cut through uncertainty with clarity. Faith lives where love resides. Our choice is clear. The community survives on acceptance and understanding, regardless of judgment from the outside. His brow furrowed. A flicker of doubt crossed him, powerful yet vulnerable as the winds outside surged. Your ideals are noble, sister, yet ideals alone do not shelter the beleaguered. Will you stand against stronger tides? The community stirred, whispers of resolve rising among them as Joanna pressed on. We will, and even if broken, we will rebuild. This space is sacred. We nurture life here. A silence stretched, heavy with expectation, as the envoy regarded this motley crew gathered before him. In their eyes was fierce determination, knowledge of sacrifice held tight within their souls. Your unity is commendable, he finally conceded, voice tempered but strong. However, a greater question looms. It is not just about your perseverance, but of reanimation in the face of stinging doubt. What then? Joanna asked, an edge of desperation creeping into each syllable. What emerges on the other side of doubt, rejection, hatred, stigma? Or perhaps we can reshape the very meaning of our existence. She held the gaze of the envoy firmly, an unwavering beacon of hope. We will not bend simply because storms threaten. We will grow tall like trees, roots reaching into the earth while our branches embrace the sky. With a long inhale, she felt a wave of strength wash over her, a pulse of life coursing through their collective veins. We hold the power to define who we are today and tomorrow. Love is our armor, hope is our sword. The envoy's eyes softened, taking in the magnitude of her words. And what if the world you face out there continues to rise against you? What will you do then? The question shimmered in the charged air, and Joanna turned towards her kin, hearts beating as one. We will show them that the unfound can be cherished, she declared, suddenly invigorated by the collective spirit. We will stand, we will face the shadows, and we will carry them with us. The sun continued to weave ribbons of light through darkened clouds, blurring the edges where hope met despair. Slowly, murmurs of agreement filled the air, rising like a swell in an ocean, voices of resilience intertwined with unwavering belief. Days melted into the golden glow of harvest, and the community thrived under Joanna's guidance. The envoy's presence remained a haunting specter at the fringes, doubt still haunting their hearts, yet they were united in purpose. As autumn blushed the landscape into vibrant oranges and browns, they gathered for the harvest festival, a celebration not only of the crops they had cultivated, but the souls that had come to share life. Joanna stood among them, laughter spilling from her lips, warmth glowing in her chest. Together, we have created sanctuary, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who dares to dream, she proclaimed, raising her cup in the air, filled with the nectar of hope. Let us toast to life. With echoes of laughter rolling over the fields, the shadows shifted, slowly loosening their grip, revealing warmth never before known. They danced and sang, fear for the moment surrendered beneath the jubilant celebration. But in the distance, intelligence could be seen marching forth, in a line not of acceptance, but of unrelenting doubt. Residents of the locality stood by, waiting. Gossip had already sown seeds of discontent, whispers ringing clear into their ears. As fatigue seeped down and the sun bid farewell behind the silhouette of mountains, Joanna caught the first glimpse of trouble taking form. In a flash, fear threatened to shadow her once more, the irony twisting cruelly across her heart. Even amid joyous laughter, news traveled like wildfire, ensconcing their triumph with turmoil. The populace began to gather, storm clouds under every breath as the notion of other neared their doorstep. Joanna gathered her thoughts, bringing forth all that they had achieved, a courage carved from suffering. Resolute, she stepped forth to face the tide of uncertainty, the community rallying behind her. In that moment, she felt the strength that forged her before coursing through her veins, the formidable spirit of determination led by life's unceasing journey, not just for her own heart, But for all those who craved the love they had built together, she stood before the naysayers. "I understand your fear," she began, gazing into their faces. "But we are here, honestly and wholly. We are not here to threaten your existence, but to demonstrate that life itself flourishes in the embrace of love." As she spoke, the very earth trembled with the weight of her purpose, the shadows drawing taut under gleaming lights of truth. "Will you choose judgment, or will you choose unity?" The quiet lingered, breaths held tight. This was the moment to shape their futures, to define the essence of their journey. In the stillness, an echo rippled through the crowd, grunts of disbelief, soft murmurs of hope, and then, just as the storms gathered in the skies, the unified community surged forth, words of support overlapping in fullness and strength. In the core of it, they found resilience blossoming. Communities embraced each other once lost in rift. Together, Joanna shouted through the rising spirit, tears of gratitude brightening her eyes. "We rise. If this journey has touched your soul, the path transforms as we journey together. Subscribe to Medieval Stories as we weave through tales of love and unity, discovering light in shadows and moving toward futures built on compassion and hope." With those resounding words still hanging in the air, Joanna felt the world shift around her. The murmurs of uncertainty gave way to an undercurrent of movement, a spirit ignited among the throng. They did not just see her, they saw themselves reflected in her defiance, in her resolve. As hope washed over them like the morning sun breaking through clouds, Joanna felt the weight of her words settle. This was the crux of their existence, standing against the encroaching darkness with every fiber of their being. The whispers among them intensified, voices rising in strength like the tide against the shore, an embrace of camaraderie and shared dreams. "Listen!" came a voice from among the crowd, a man whose hands were worn from toil, yet eyes shone bright with determination. "We came here to find a home. We are all of us in this together. We are not alone." Nods spread through the assembly, a wave of agreement undulating like ripples in water. Each face reflected a myriad of emotions, from fear to fierce loyalty, all bound by the golden threads of the lives they built together. Another voice, a woman whose heart had once been hollow, surged forth. "We may be different, but we stand united. No judgment can withstand love like ours." The energy within the group swelled as one after another, they stepped into the embrace of the moment. It danced through them, igniting passion that rallied their spirits. In that charged instant, uncertainty faded, replaced by unshakable trust. Joanna took a step forward, her heart pounding in sync with the collective rhythm. "We are the architects of the future," she proclaimed, fervor radiating through her as the wind surged with her words. "Join us in building a world where acceptance reigns and love finds life in the shadows." A profound silence enveloped the crowd before it erupted into a chorus of affirmation. "We will stand. We will fight." Together, they wove the tapestry of support, voices trailing through the air, bouncing off stone walls and echoing into the hills. Even those watching, feared and uncertain, began to feel a shift within their own spirits. "Perhaps," one whispered to another, doubt flickering like flame in the dark, "perhaps we can learn to love what we don't understand." Yet, in the periphery, a darker tide churned. There were factions that still clung to the notion that fear could shield them. As the festival swelled with life, others plotted in the shadows, mired in resentment and disbelief. The envoy, observing from the sidelines, felt a swell of pride intertwine with concern. The determination of the gathered souls was bold and striking, yet he remained wary, for hope was fragile, easily shattered. As dusk settled, the evening sky ignited in fiery hues, and the festival lit up, swirling colors enveloping the spirits within the gathering. Laughter rang out, like the chime of bells, each cascade echoing a truth. They shared food, stories, and moments that danced like embers across the night sky. Among the throngs, laughter mixed with tears, bitter and sweet, and so they embraced it all. It became a liberation that transcended the barriers that once divided them, speaking the unuttered promise of living as one. But even as the night grew convoluted with joy, whispers of dissent brewed at the edges, plotting in the cloak of darkness. They stirred unease, fanning flames of discord that still rested in hearts unyielded to love. "What if they come for us?" a younger voice asked, panic tracing his words, fear woven into every syllable. "What if they decide we've gone too far?" Joanna steadied herself, meeting his gaze with a depth of understanding that emanated love itself. "Listen well, we will face that storm together. Fear will not define us. Love will. Whatever lies ahead, we will navigate the tides united." As the night unfolded, hands joined and embraced each other, creating an unbreakable bond, a community made to withstand turbulence, a fortress of compassion fortified against doubt. With every heartbeat, the power in the air rippled, building a wall of unity that housed every truth, every story, and every soul. Hours passed in beautiful communion, melodies carrying their laughter into the ether, yet the deafening silence of the approaching storm still loomed beyond their jubilations. A dark silhouette began to emerge, shadowy forms that shunned compassion, riding forth like specters cast from sorrow. Rumblings seized the air, and as the festival began to wind down, Joanna sensed the shift. The lively atmosphere dimmed as the townsfolk murmured, apprehension threading through the crowd. "Stand firm!" she urged, rallying a strength deep within her as shadows approached with scrutiny. "This is our moment. Our promise is sealed. If they come with stones, we stand with our hearts." Moments passed like hours, the air constricted in expectation. The advanced silhouettes shattered the jovial atmosphere with every step, and at last they arrived, men adorned with armor forged from old beliefs. "Your gathering threatens the bond of our community," the leader declared, voice steeped in judgment, churning like warring tides. "You stir suspicion, as well as disdain. You sow seeds of discontent where peace once reigned." Joanna took a deep breath, her heart refusing to waver. "We seek only acceptance, to stitch together a community enriched by everyone's existence," she countered. "This is no act of defiance. This is an act of love, of healing, for all who reside within these walls." But the leader's gaze hardened, lips curling downwards and contempt etched into his features. "There are those among our ranks who look upon you with fear, who will not abide to share their ground. This must cease. Walk away while you can." Joanna bristled, her spirit ignited by conviction. "We stand for what we believe in. We will not back down." Doubt, saturated in darkness, flickered in many hearts, and as uncertainty began to creep amongst the assembly, the envoy stepped forward, his voice echoing like breaking glass against the swell of interaction, pressing forth with authority. "You once heralded unity, yet now risk everything," he chided. "You must know that acceptance must come from both sides. Faith requires courage to shift. Yet, in contrast, certainty surged up from the gathered masses. They spoke again, stronger than their doubts. "We are here. We are a family, one and all." The tide swelled around Joanna, rekindling her spirit and transforming fear into resolve. "Together, we will not falter," she shouted, facing both the envoy and the men of darkness. "We choose to embrace love rather than fear. We will stand together, the wall, an unwavering fortress against doubt." A moment of silence pervaded, thick and tangible, the very air crackling with the intensity of the moment. The shadows mustered, but the bonded souls before them radiated warmth, holding their ground like towering trees against a tempest. The storm, deep and pressing, heaved and roared but faltered against the vibrant light of hope. Yet, it was this moment that would carve their fate, shaping them anew with every breath held and spoken. And Joanna knew that even in moments marred by darkness, love would guide them home. If this journey has resonated with you, heed this call. Join us. Subscribe to Medieval Stories, and together we will navigate the ebb and flow of the stories that continue to ignite the spirit, holding steadfast to love while facing the shadows fearlessly.